We're live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India News, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next hour. After wrapping his France visit, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrives in US to meet President Trump. Trade, tariffs and more to dominate talks. After confirmation by the Senate Republican Tulsi Gabbard is sworn in as US Director of National Intelligence, meets PM Modi in one of the first engagements after taking charge. With peace on agenda, Trump calls Putin and Zelenskyy, says negotiations to end Ukraine conflict will start immediately. US President Donald Trump to announce reciprocal tariffs on Thursday as trade warfares mount. And India completes an empathetic whitewash of England in a three-match home ODI series just ahead of the start of the Champions Trophy. And on to the details. After wrapping his France visit, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrived in the United States on Wednesday for a two-day visit. This is PM Modi's first visit to the United States after Donald Trump assumed office for the second term. This is the second leg of the two-nation visit. This marks his first visit to the U.S. since President Donald Trump's second-term inauguration. The trip aims to strengthen India-U.S. relations, focusing on key areas such as technology, trade, defense, energy, supply chain resilience, and global security challenges, highlighting the depth of the bilateral partnership. Prime Minister Modi will be staying at the Blair House, the historic guest lodging for dignitaries visiting the White House. During his 36-hour stay in the U.S., Prime Minister Modi is scheduled to hold bilateral meetings with President Trump. This is Prime Minister Modi's first bilateral visit to the U.S. since Trump was sworn in for his second term and places him among the select few foreign leaders visiting Washington within weeks of the new administration's inauguration. Prime Minister Modi is the fourth foreign leader to meet Trump at the White House in less than a month after he took office for the second term. He'll also meet several members of Trump's cabinet as well as U.S. business leaders and members of the Indian American community. Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi received a warm welcome from the Indian diaspora. Members of the Indian community waited at the hotel to have a glimpse of Prime Minister Modi. Despite the chilly winter, members of the Indian community gathered outside the hotel chanting "Modi, Modi" and waving Indian flags to greet him. Prime Minister also reciprocated, waving his hands to the people and talking to the members of the Indian community.
अनुभव जो है बहुत ही अच्छा रहा। ये कहें कि विश्व का सब कुछ मिल गया। मोदी जी ने हमें आशीर्वाद दिया और भारत के प्रधानमंत्री जो कि इतने सुलझे हुए, इतने पहुंचे हुए, इतने कर्मठ इंसान हैं जो लाखों करोड़ों भारतवासियों की दिन रात सेवा कर रहे हैं, ऐसे महापुरुष का आशीर्वाद पाकर जीवन धन्य हो गया।
बहुत अच्छा लगा। मोदी जी से हाथ मिलाया। मोदी जी ने बहुत खुश हो गया देख के मोदी जी को।
बहुत बढ़िया है। हमें उससे मिलकर बहुत खुशी हुई। इतना थक गए थे तो भी उसने टाइम निकाला और सब लोगों से मिले और अच्छी तरह से बात की और हमारे कंसर्न सुने और बहुत अच्छा लगा हमें।
We were waiting for him, so we got to see him very close. So I really am liking it. Like seeing him so close, it is really nice.
It's all worth it. Like 5 hours we are standing in this weather. It's freaking cold and you're freezing, but it's all worth it. Just one glance of him and he's so nice. Like, we just love him.
And in his first bilateral, Prime Minister Narendra Modi met freshly appointed USA's Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, in Washington, D.C. On social media platform X, Prime Minister Modi congratulated her on her confirmation and discussed various aspects of the India-USA friendship with her, of which she's always been a strong votary. Meanwhile, Tulsi Gabbard was sworn in as the top U.S. spy on Wednesday with Republican support behind a nominee once considered one of President Donald Trump's most controversial picks. Gabbard will now lead an agency established after the September 11, 2001 attacks to coordinate the nation's intelligence operations. That is one of the most critical national security roles in the U.S. government. Gabbard, who left the Democratic Party in 2022 to become an independent before backing Trump and joining the Republican Party in 2024, expressed her commitment to focus on ensuring the safety, security and freedom of the American people.
So I look forward to being able to help fulfill that mandate that the American people delivered to you very clearly in this election, to refocus our intelligence community by empowering the great patriots who have chosen to serve our country in this way, and focus on ensuring the safety, security, and freedom of the American people.
Well, at the swearing-in ceremony, Trump entrusted her with overseeing urgently needed reforms to the U.S. intelligence community to protect the rights and the civil liberties of all Americans.
Tulsi Gabbard's an American of extraordinary courage and exceptional patriotism. She's devoted her entire life to public service, and I've watched her for years on different shows and everything. I said, she's a woman of great common sense, and, you know, we like the common sense.
And for more, we have Shubhendu Ghosh joining us from Washington, D.C. Well, Shubhendu, given that this is Prime Minister Modi's first visit to the U.S. since President Trump's second-term inauguration, this is an absolutely new chapter in India-U.S. comprehensive global strategic partnership. What do you think this means for the future of U.S.-India relations, especially considering the evolving geopolitical landscape and the focus on areas, especially like defense, trade and technology?
Good evening, Lipakshi. That's right. We have to see that the expectations are sky high. This is the very first meeting of Prime Minister Narendra Modi with President Donald Trump in the new administration of the U.S. government. In each of these areas that you mentioned, whether it's defense, whether it's trade, we could expect big ticket announcement, but most importantly, what is expected is the manner in which the two countries, India and United States, are going to be looking at the next 4 years. So to determine that broader roadmap, the direction that the two countries are going to take together as key strategic partners is what these two leaders are most likely to focus on. In defense specifically, we could hear announcements of co-production of advanced weapon systems. We could also hear a commercial deal of India purchasing advanced fighter aircraft, but those are, again, would be in the realm of the speculation till we hear. In trade, we know that America is already the largest trading partner of India. There are several areas where this cooperation, particularly in the domain of energy, this cooperation could in fact progress. India's energy basket could become diversified if we turn to United States for a significant part of to fulfill our energy requirement. So in that sense, this relationship is actually spread over diverse areas, and therefore the expectations as we are tracking at the moment are quite high from the two leaders when they meet on Thursday at the White House.
All right, Shubhendu. Also, with Prime Minister Modi meeting the key members of President Trump's cabinet and U.S. business leaders during this visit of his, how important do you think the personal rapport between Prime Minister Modi and President Trump is in strengthening the overall India-U.S. relationship during this visit, and how might the individual connections influence the key discussions?
Oh, many would say that it perhaps is at the heart of the manner in which India and United States are going to be working together in the next 4 years at least. That personal rapport, that warmth, that bonhomie, that confidence that the two leaders have on one another. They understand one another. There is a great degree of trust which is very significant in the current geopolitics, which is really impacted by trust deficit between countries and leaders. So in that sense, that personal rapport could in fact form the foundation for more advanced, more deeper cooperation between India and the United States. As I mentioned earlier, that they are already key strategic partners. There is important cooperation and exchange as far as critical technologies, defense is concerned. AI, semiconductors, these are very sensitive areas of development and progress where you would like to collaborate with a country, with leaders that you are 100% confident and sure about. And given that India and United States are already planning many important projects in this domain, it speaks volumes about the manner in which the two leaders, Donald Trump and Prime Minister Narendra Modi, are going to be carrying forward this responsibility, particularly on the basis of that personal touch that they share between them.
All right, Shubhendu, thank you so much for all those details right from there. And Indians are the biggest foreign student group in the United States. They form an important part of people-to-people linkages between the two countries. DD India's Shubhendu Ghosh speaks with some Indian students in Washington, D.C. to learn about their aspirations and concerns and their expectations from Prime Minister Modi and President Trump talks.
One of the hallmarks of India-United States relationship is the people-to-people connect. Some 3.3 lakh Indian students are studying here in America. In fact, I have with me a couple of bright students from the prestigious Georgetown University in Washington, D.C., Anusha and Amrendra. Welcome both of you to DD India. First, I'd like to learn from you. Give us a sense of what it is like for Indian students to come here in America.
Coming to America is certainly a very transformative experience, and for someone like me who's a student who also came along with her family, so I would say that it was an enriching experience for my children as well, who started going to their preschool and school here in America. But it also comes with its own challenges. Maybe, navigating the different visa policies or, the changing uncertainties that come along with it.
What can you tell us about your experience of being here, studying here?
Regarding all these visa policies and everything is changing. So I would have preferred a little bit more stability and a little bit more, certainty of what is going to happen next. That would have given me more peace of mind.
Right. The thing about policy uncertainty, Anusha, you mentioned, if you could also give us a sense of the manner in which it is impacting your plans for the present and the future.
So I would say that in terms of policy uncertainty, I would perhaps touch on the H-1B system. I personally would want to see it more merit-based. Students who have high-income jobs lined up in some of our cases would want our critical thinking skills to be at the forefront, or U.S. work experience to be at the forefront, rather than having these very unpredictable things.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi is going to be here holding talks with President Donald Trump. There's going to be the first meeting between the two leaders as the new administration has come into power. As young Indian students studying here in America, any message for the two leaders as they sit together, hold talks?
Try to get some reforms in the green card processes. Try to recapture whatever you can. Make it more merit-based, talent-based. Make it predictable, talent-driven, merit-driven. I would also say that make it easier for some of his students who want to pursue entrepreneurship as well.
These young students, Indian students in America, talking about their expectations as Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Donald Trump hold talks to take towards the future, talk about the future of India-US partnership. With camera person Jaishankar, Shubhendu Ghosh for DD India in Washington, D.C.
All right, and now let's show you some visuals as Prime Minister Modi begins his US visit, where he received a warm reception in the winter chill. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Prime Minister Modi's France visit highlights strong bonhomie with President Macron over the years. Over 43 crore devotees take the holy dip at Mahakumbh 2025 in Prayagraj as pilgrims continue to flock to the sacred Triveni Sangam. Today is World Radio Day 2025, celebrating radio's role in communication, education and climate change awareness.
Prasar Bharati, in collaboration with IIT Delhi and Software Technology Parks of India, is organizing the DD Robocon 2025 this year as well. In this National Robotics Championship, engineering students will get ample opportunities to showcase their ingenuity and potential. The national selection for this championship will be held on the 12th and 13th of July, and the winning team will get an opportunity to participate in the International ABU Robocon Championship to be held in Mongolia in August this year. So, hurry up! The last date of registration is the 16th of February. For more information, log on to www.ddrobocon.iitd.ac.in.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Kuran, and moving on, talking about Prime Minister's visit to France. Collective global action on artificial intelligence dominated Day 2 of India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi's France visit. Day 3 was not just about cultural linkages and people-to-people connect. It also focused on strengthening economic and maritime ties, with focus on sustainable and limitless clean energy for the future. Take a look.
After a power-packed Day 1 in France, Indian Prime Minister and French President yet again scripted history in Marseille. Both the leaders jointly inaugurated the Indian consulate in this vibrant city, marking a new chapter in India-France ties. At the consulate, both the leaders were warmly welcomed by members of the Indian diaspora who had gathered to witness this historic occasion. Both the leaders also visited the Mazak War Cemetery in Marseille and paid tribute to the Indian soldiers who lost their lives during the First and Second World War. Both leaders laid wreaths to honor the sacrifices of the fallen soldiers. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Emmanuel Macron then visited the International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor ITER in Cadarache. Both leaders appreciated the progress of ITER, including the assembly of the world's largest tokamak, where 500 megawatt of fusion power will be produced. India is among the 7 ITER members contributing to the project over the last 2 decades. Focus was also on strengthening maritime ties. Both leaders visited the control room of CMA CGM, a French shipping and logistics company in Marseille. The two leaders held discussion on future collaboration through the India-Middle East-Europe Economic Corridor, which was launched during India's G20 presidency. As Prime Minister Narendra Modi's productive visit to France concludes, he emplained for his visit to the United States, where he will be holding talks with President Donald Trump. Prime Minister Modi was accorded a military farewell in France. In a special gesture, French President Emmanuel Macron came to see off Prime Minister Modi at the airport, showcasing once again a never-ending bond between both the two leaders. Jessica Taneja's report for DD India.
Well, the Prime Minister's visit to France has been marked by an exceptional display of camaraderie and respect from President Emmanuel Macron, showcasing the strength of their bilateral relationship. Take a look how the two leaders have shared their special bond not only during the latest trip but also over the years.
In the world of diplomacy, friendships are rare. But the bond between Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and French President Emmanuel Macron is a shining exception. Their recent meeting in France once again highlighted the strength of this partnership, built on mutual trust, strategic collaboration, and a personal camaraderie that transcends official ties. The embrace, the smiles, and the easy conversation set the tone for yet another chapter in the growing rapport. The visit wasn't just about gestures. It was about shaping the future. Co-chairing the Artificial Intelligence Action Summit, the two leaders reinforced their shared vision for AI's role in global progress. Beyond policy discussions, their personal connection was evident. From casual conversations to light-hearted moments, their chemistry reflected a friendship that has only strengthened over the years. In Marseille, the warmth of their bond extended to the people. Welcomed by an enthusiastic Indian diaspora, their joint presence symbolized the growing ties between India and France, not just at the government level, but at a people-to-people level. This isn't the first time Modi and Macron have displayed such bonhomie. From their heartfelt meetings at global summits to Bastille Day celebrations in 2023, their partnership has grown into a true alliance of trust and shared ambitions. As Modi's visit to France concludes, one thing is clear. This isn't just about diplomacy. It's a friendship that continues to shape the future of global cooperation, and with leaders who believe in the power of partnership. The best is yet to come. Tapas Bhattacharya's report for DD India.
Well, the Indian and French leaders also visited the International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor in Cadarache during the visit. DD India's Jessica Taneja spoke with the Director General of ITER, Pietro Barabast, and K.R. Sriram, head of the Office of the Director General.
We have with us the Director General of ITER, Pietro Barabast. Thank you for speaking to DD India and taking out time. We've seen you at work. We've seen the contributions of the 7 nations. Tell us about India's contribution and what do you make of it?
Yeah, thank you. So, yeah, Indian contributions, as you have seen yourself with your own eyes, are very important for ITER. There is a cryostat, which was built by L&T. There has been contribution in the cryogenic lines, in many parts of the project. Plus, there is the human contribution. So many smart engineers that came here to work in the assembly and in the preparation of the delivery of the component. Very, very important.
You've seen the Indian Prime Minister's keenness on enhancing civil nuclear cooperation with France over the years. In fact, France was one of the countries and ITER is where we are at this point. How do you see this moving forward, especially when it comes to the leader of India who wants to continue with this momentum moving forward?
Well, I can only but welcome, say, the initiatives of your Prime Minister to reinforce, yes, the cooperation at international level for the development and the deployment of nuclear power. So fusion is one path, but, you know, I'm conscious of the fact that fusion will take time to develop. So it's, say, at the frontier of technology. But we also have a problem. We have a problem that we have to solve in the world to, say, reduce gradually and maybe not as, you know, a little bit faster than we are doing our dependency from fossil fuels. And this is also important for India. So from that standpoint, to cooperate in the international frame, to develop nuclear power in general, it's very commendable. And I think that cooperation with India, I'm sure, would be welcomed by many fronts.
The expectations from India in particular, apart from the current initiatives?
So I would like to put the right emphasis that what I see from India is a lot of valuable contribution in terms of new ideas also. That's the first thing. Secondly, I am very happy about what has happened so far with Indian suppliers. We have very serious suppliers, reliable. Such companies will continue to remain engaged and work with us closely because, I mean, this work of assembly requires not only the workforce, but also the ingenuity and the organization of pre-existing large industrial suppliers such as the one you have in India.
We have with us Mr. K.R. Sriram. He's the head of office of the Director General here at ITER. Thank you for speaking to us, sir. You've been here for 6 years. This is your second stint. Tell us about the progress India has made over the years in terms of contribution to the ITER project.
India's contribution to the ITER project has been very significant. So the main contribution that India has made is through the cryostat, which is in fact one of the largest pieces of equipment forming part of the ITER machine. India has also contributed the cooling water system. It has made significant contributions to the cryogenic systems. And increasingly, Indian contractors, leading companies like Larsen & Toubro, Inox India, are working directly with the ITER organization for doing very key components of machine assembly activities on-site as well as off-site.
Prime Minister Modi has been very keen on this project since the very beginning. How do you see things moving forward when it comes to his vision of how India is going to continue to contribute in the future?
I think the Prime Minister should be extremely happy with the level of contribution that India has made, India and Indian industry have made. And this would also help to lay the foundation for how the Indian nuclear fusion industry, both private and public, could be foreseen in the future. Until now, the primary focus of India has been on fission nuclear energy, which is of course remaining very important. But fusion as a potential source will become very important, and ITER's role is to demonstrate the scientific and technical feasibility of nuclear energy and lay the foundation for future fusion power plants. So once this project achieves, shall I say, a degree of completion, and the research operations demonstrate such feasibility, I think the way forward would be clear for India on its for its own new fusion program and in collaboration with others. So this will be a very important step forward to demonstrate future fusion power plants.
And on to all the latest from the Mahakumbh, the largest religious congregation in the world. The Mahakumbh 2025 in Prayagraj has drawn an overwhelming number of devotees to the sacred Triveni Sangam, the confluence of Ganga, Yamuna and Saraswati rivers. With unwavering faith and devotion, more than 43 crore pilgrims have already taken the holy dip, seeking spiritual purification and blessings. With 13 days left for the grand event to conclude, officials anticipate that the total number of pilgrims could surpass an astounding 50 crores. Even after the completion of the three main Amrit Snans, Makar Sankranti, Mauni Amavasya and Basant Panchami, the enthusiasm of the pilgrims remains undiminished. People from across India and the world continue to arrive daily, making the Mahakumbh a global spiritual phenomena. The Mahakumbh 2025 is not just a religious gathering, but a reflection of the rich spiritual heritage and enduring faith of millions. As the sacred waters of the Triveni Sangam witness history, the event continues to inspire devotion, unity and cultural pride. Well, Union Railway Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw, along with officials, reviewed crowd management situation of Prayagraj railway stations in the war room at Rail Bhavan. The minister instructed officials to ensure the trains are made available for pilgrims in all directions. He also mentioned that the Prayagraj division has been directed to run extra trains as needed to ease passenger congestion while ensuring passenger comfort in the holding areas. And February 13th is marked as the World Radio Day every year to celebrate radio as a powerful medium of communication, education and entertainment. This day was established by UNESCO in the year 2011 and later adopted by United Nations General Assembly in the year 2012. This day implies the significance of radio, acknowledging its role in connecting people, spreading awareness and fostering communication globally. In this digital era, where technological advancements have taken over, radio continues to play a significant role as it reaches the wide audience, from far-flung villages to global broadcasting network at the same time, radio being the most accessible and efficient means of communication. The theme of World Radio Day for the year 2025 is Radio and Climate Change, emphasizing the significant role of radio in raising awareness about climate change, educating audience on environmental issues, and advocating joint efforts and action towards sustainability. And still to come in DD India News Hour. U.S. judge greenlights Trump administration's federal worker buyout program amid union pushback. Trump administration sues New York over hindering federal efforts to crack down on undocumented migrants. And wildfires ravage Chile's Araucanía region, leaving trail of destruction. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Pakshi Kunal, and time now for a quick recap of the headlines. After wrapping his France visit, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrives in US to meet President Trump. Trade, tariffs and more to dominate talks. After confirmation by the Senate, Republican Tulsi Gabbard sworn in as U.S. Director of National Intelligence meets Prime Minister Modi in one of the first engagements after taking charge. With peace on agenda, Trump calls Putin and Zelenskyy, says negotiations to end Ukraine conflict will start immediately. U.S. President Donald Trump to announce reciprocal tariffs on Thursday as trade war fears mount. And India completes an emphatic whitewash of England in a 3-match home ODI series just ahead of the start of the Champions Trophy. Well, moving on, U.S. President Donald Trump said he had a lengthy and highly productive call with Russian President Vladimir Putin on Wednesday, in which they agreed to immediately start negotiations to end the Ukraine war. Trump said on Truth Social that both the leaders had extended invitations of visiting each other's nations, while the U.S. leader said he would be calling Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy right now to inform him about the call. In an extraordinary thaw in relations between Washington and Moscow, the Kremlin separately said the call lasted 1.5 hours and that Putin and Trump had agreed that the time had come to work together. According to Kremlin, Putin also told Trump that a long-term settlement of the Ukraine conflict sparked by Russia's 2022 invasion of its pro-Western neighbor was possible and invited the U.S. president to Moscow. The Trump-Putin call came after a prisoner swap this week that saw Moscow free U.S. teacher Mark Fogel, while Washington released Russian cryptocurrency kingpin Alexander Venek. Trump said he will hold a first meeting with Putin in Saudi Arabia.
Tomorrow they're meeting in Munich, as you know, and we're going to have some other meetings, and I'll be dealing with President Putin largely on the phone, and we ultimately expect to meet. In fact, we expect that he'll come here and I'll go there, and we're going to meet also probably in Saudi Arabia. The first time we'll meet in Saudi Arabia, see if we can get something done.
Well, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy and U.S. President Donald Trump held a phone conversation in which the leaders discussed the Russia-Ukraine conflict. During the call, Zelenskyy stated that they discussed opportunities to achieve peace as well as the preparation of a document governing security and economic cooperation. Both the leaders also talked about U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent's visit to Kyiv, which focused on a deal concerning Ukrainian critical minerals between the two countries. As per Zelenskyy, Trump also shared details of his conversation with Putin, and they agreed to maintain further contact and plan upcoming meetings. The call took place shortly after Trump announced he had spoken with Russian President Vladimir Putin about starting negotiations immediately with Moscow to end the conflict in Ukraine. And for more, we have Anil Thomas joining us from the newsroom. Well, Anil, given the recent phone call between President Trump and President Putin, now how do you assess the likelihood of meaningful progress towards resolving the Ukraine conflict, especially in light of the significant thaw we see in US-Russia relations?
Well, good morning, Lipakshi. Well, a positive outlook, to a very long conflict that's on between Russia and Ukraine. And it started on Feb 24, 2022. It's almost been 3 years. We are on the verge of celebrating or, looking at the third anniversary of this conflict between the two nations. Let's purely look at it in terms of numbers. There are close to 7 million people who have been displaced in Ukraine, close to 7 million people who have left Ukraine, close to 4.5 million who have been internally displaced inside Ukraine. And that's not all. We are looking at almost 1/3 of Ukraine getting affected with this conflict. That's almost on the verge of entering into its third year. So this particular move, where President Trump has had a long 90-minute conversation with Putin, is clearly indicative, and then the follow-up call with Zelenskyy is clearly indicative of a new rise in Russia-US relations. Not only that, it's also getting Ukraine on board. But the territorial concessions along with the NATO membership out of the radar, does not leave much for Ukraine to choose in this particular deal that's on the table. I think we'll have to wait and watch for the Munich conference that follows, followed by the meeting between Putin and Trump that takes place in Saudi Arabia, as Trump indicated, to get the finer points of this. But a thaw in the relationship is something that's good, because the world was, worried with this delayed or prolonged conflict between the two nations, which was having a cascading effect on the global supply chains. Those things could look for a big relief. And I think this particular, coming back to the table to talks is something good for the world, because the world was hoping that this particular conflict, would finally reach some kind of conclusion, especially when it comes to getting the two parties on board.
All right. Also, Anil, with President Trump planning a meeting with Putin in Saudi Arabia and discussing the situation with Ukrainian President Zelenskyy also, what impact do you foresee this diplomatic shift having on US-Ukraine relations, especially, and the broader geopolitical landscape there?
Well, on a broader geopolitical landscape, it leaves the European Union in a state of, confusion, because the European Union is not going to be party to these talks. For that matter, even Ukraine has time and again said that they had to be party to the talks. But if you see, the call is first made to Putin and then to Zelenskyy as a follow-up. So clearly, even Ukraine is not on the table when it comes to the two world leaders talking, especially Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. So in that context, it becomes, and also the point of contention could be, first of all, the decrease of military force inside Ukraine that Russia has been, time and again raising. Losing the NATO membership is another thing that, Ukraine has been trying for long. It started in 2000. They formally made a request in 2022. But now with this almost likely out of the window, or a prolonged extension to getting membership into NATO, clearly leaves Ukraine with not much to choose. Ukraine has lost enough. Ukraine cannot afford this, and I think Russia is not going to give an inch. So if there is a barter that's been tried out, you take this, I take that, almost 20% of Ukrainian entire region is with the Russians, after this particular prolonged war that we have seen. So it does not leave Ukraine with much. But yes, in the geopolitical situation, if US is only going to provide aid, US is not going to provide armed soldiers to fight this particular conflict, I think it puts more pressure on the European Union, and I think European Union does not look ready for that. They are also ready to provide arms and ammunition, but not in terms of getting their soldiers on the ground. So that leaves Ukraine with not much to choose. Rather gather whatever is available on the table, make a deal, and look for an end to the conflict so that at least they can look forward to some elections there at the end of the year and maybe getting their house in order, because this prolonged fight has left with Ukraine with nothing to gain, more to lose.
All right, Anil, thank you so much for all those insights from there. And moving on, former Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko stated that Ukraine's National Security and Defense Council had imposed sanctions on him. He accused current President Volodymyr Zelenskyy of undermining national unity. In response, Zelenskyy, who won the 2019 election against Poroshenko, confirmed that the council had approved certain measures and cautioned that those who jeopardized national security would be held accountable. And speaking in Paris on the sidelines of a foreign ministers' meeting of Ukraine's allies, German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock urged Russian President Vladimir Putin to end conflict in Ukraine and to start peace negotiations.
Die Ukraine will Frieden, wir Europäer wollen Frieden.
Ukraine wants peace. We Europeans want peace. The Americans want peace. If only the Russian president would finally come to his senses that he should put an end to this disaster in the interest of peace throughout Europe, then that would be an overdue step. We must walk this path together so that peace returns to Europe.
Well, moving on to other stories now, U.S. President Donald Trump plans to announce reciprocal tariffs on every country that charges duties on U.S. imports in a move that ratchets up fears of a widening global trade war and threatens to accelerate U.S. inflation. The president has already stunned markets by announcing tariffs on all steel and aluminium imports beginning on March 12th. That drew condemnation from Mexico, Canada and the European Union, while Japan and Australia said they were seeking exemptions from the duties. Last week, Trump imposed an additional 10% tariff on Chinese imports effective February 4th, with Chinese countermeasures taking effect this week. He delayed a 25% tariff on goods from Mexico and Canada until March 4th to allow negotiations over steps to secure U.S. borders and halt the flow of the drug fentanyl.
I was just with the president in the Oval Office, and I can confirm that tomorrow, the February 1st deadline that President Trump put into place at a statement several weeks ago continues. The president will be implementing tomorrow a 25% tariffs on Mexico, 25% tariffs on Canada, and a 10% tariff on China for the illegal fentanyl that they have sourced and allowed to distribute into our country, which has killed tens of millions of Americans. These are promises made and promises kept by the president.
All right. And meanwhile, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said on Wednesday, if the United States imposes tariffs on imports of Canadian steel and aluminium, some Americans will lose their jobs and U.S. growth will suffer. Trudeau also reiterated that Canada would respond with countermeasures if need be. U.S. President Donald Trump is threatening tariffs on steel and aluminium as well as a broader tariff on all Canadian imports.
There were job losses in the United States. 75,000 fewer jobs in the U.S. because of tariffs they brought in on steel and aluminum, and those tariffs were even lower than the ones they're contemplating bringing in right now. Canada will respond as appropriate in a calibrated but extremely strong way, regardless of what the U.S. moves forward with. We don't want to be in a trade dispute. We think that the best thing for all of us in North America is to continue to work together, to focus on some of the international trade challenges.
Well, 13 Canadian premiers traveled to Washington, D.C. to meet U.S. senators and members of Congress on Wednesday in efforts to stop President Donald Trump from imposing tariffs on Canada. The trip by all the leaders of Canada's 10 provinces and 3 territories is unprecedented, underscoring the stakes for the country's economy, which depends on the U.S. for more than 3/4 of its exports. Beginning on Tuesday and continuing throughout the week, the premiers are meeting in Washington with business leaders, think tanks and U.S. lawmakers lawmakers to highlight the deep and often overlooked ties binding the countries. They're also expected to meet Trump advisors at the White House, according to Wednesday press release from the Council of the Federation, contrary to earlier statements that no meetings with administration officials were planned. And the U.S. Senate advanced President Donald Trump's nomination of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to head the Department of Health and Human Services. The Senate voted 53-47 along party lines to limit debate on Kennedy's nomination amid staunch opposition from both Democrats and many public health experts. If confirmed, as expected by the Republican-controlled Senate, Kennedy would head the nation's top health agency that oversees agencies such as the Food and Drug Administration and the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. It also is in charge of the Medicare and Medicaid health insurance programs for the elderly, the poor and the disabled people. And a U.S. judge allowed Donald Trump's administration to carry out its federal worker buyout program as the Republican president moves to overhaul and downsize the U.S. government, handing a setback to unions trying to stop the plan. The decision could clear the way for the Trump administration to swiftly try to wrap the program up, though the unions could ask another court to halt the program. U.S. District Judge George O'Toole in Boston dissolved an earlier order he issued that had paused the program at the urging of unions representing more than 800,000 federal employees, concluding the unions lacked legal standing to challenge the rule. Trump, who began his second term as president on January 20th, has appointed Elon Musk, a special government employee, to oversee a sweeping effort called the Department of Government Efficiency, with a stated aim of reducing federal budget spending and reshaping the United States' 2.2 million strong federal workforce, potentially purging thousands of workers. Well, U.S. President Donald Trump's administration filed a lawsuit against New York accusing the Democratic-ruled state of hindering federal efforts to crack down on undocumented migrants. The legal action comes a week after the Justice Department sued the so-called Sanctuary City, Chicago, and the Midwestern state of Illinois on similar grounds. Trump pledged during his 2024 presidential campaign to carry out the largest mass deportation of undocumented migrants in U.S. history. Trump has insisted that undocumented migrants are disproportionately responsible for crime, despite research showing U.S. citizens commit more offenses per capita. After taking office, Trump declared a national emergency on the southern U.S. border and signed an executive order stating that undocumented migrants present significant threats to national security and public safety. While wildfires swept through Chile's Araucanía region, claiming one life and leaving more than 40 people homeless as emergency services battle to contain the blazes. The fires have destroyed 30 homes in their path. Helicopters and small aircraft have been deployed, dropping water over the affected areas, while firefighters on the ground work to control the spread of flames. In a coordinated effort to control and contain the fire, tractors are creating fire breaks by digging ditches across the landscape as thick plumes of smoke rise from the burning forest. Local authorities continue to monitor the situation as firefighting efforts remain ongoing. And coming up, still to come on DD India News Hour. India's index of industrial production records growth of 3.2% in December 2024. And sports, second seed Iga Swiatek makes it through the quarter-finals of Qatar Open, while Jasmine Paolini falls back. Well, be ready to wash your blues as Croatia Laughter Museum aims to blow away all the negativity from your lives.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked, we just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Now. On to some business news now. India's semiconductor dreams have taken a major leap forward. US-based chip-making tools giant Lam Research has announced 100 billion rupees investment in India, marking a significant boost to the country's semiconductor manufacturing ambitions. The move aligns with Prime Minister Narendra Modi's vision of making India a global hub for chip production. Here are the details.
In a major push to India's semiconductor manufacturing ambitions, US chip equipment supplier Lam Research is investing 10,000 crore rupees in the country. The announcement was made by India's Electronics and IT Minister Ashwini Vaishnav, who took to microblogging platform X, calling it a big vote of confidence in India's semiconductor journey. With global demand for semiconductors surging, India is positioning itself as a major player in chip manufacturing. The country's semiconductor market is projected to reach $109 billion by 2030, and initiatives are in place to ensure self-sufficiency and reduced reliance on imports. The India's semiconductor mission is at the heart of this effort, aiming to build a sustainable ecosystem for semiconductor and display manufacturing. Launched in 2021 with a 76,000 crore rupees budget, the Semicon India program provides strategic incentives to attract global and domestic players into semiconductor production, covering everything from fabrication to chip packaging and sensors. The second edition of Semicon India is set for September 1 and 2 this year, following a hugely successful edition in 2024 that saw participation from over 250 companies across 18 countries. With growing local demand for electronics, India's semiconductor ecosystem is expanding rapidly. With global tech giants betting big on India, the country is steadily cementing its place in the world's semiconductor supply chain. Bureau Report, DD India.
Well, India's index of industrial production recorded a growth of 3.2% in December 2024 as against 5.2% in the month of November 2024. The growth rates of three sectors, mining, manufacture and electricity, for the month of December 2024 are 2.6%, 3% and 6.2% respectively, with indices standing at 143.1, 156.2 and 192.8 respectively. The quick estimates of IIP stands at 157.2 in December 2024 against 152.3 in December 2023. In manufacturing sector, top three positive contributors for the month of December 2024 are manufacture of basic metals, manufacture of electrical equipment and manufacture of coke and refined petroleum products. Well, you're watching DD India News. Our time now for some sports news. India completed a commanding 3-0 clean sweep over England with an emphatic 142-run victory in the third ODI in Ahmedabad. Batting first, India posted a formidable total of 356 runs, with Shubman Gill leading the charge with a century. Virat Kohli and Shreyas Iyer contributed crucial half-centuries in their final outing before the Champions Trophy. In response, England managed to score only 214 runs as Indian bowlers delivered a collective masterclass. Arshdeep Singh, Harshit Rana, Akshar Patel and Hardik Pandya took 2 wickets apiece, while Kuldeep Yadav and Washington Sundar bagged 1 wicket each. And second seed Iga Swiatek made it through to the quarterfinals of the Qatar Open on Wednesday, but Jasmine Paolini became the latest seed to fall. Polish world number 2 Swiatek fought back from a set down to eventually beat Linda Noskova of the Czech Republic 6-7, 6-4, 6-4 in a match lasting over 2.5 hours. In the last 8, Swiatek will meet Alina Rybakina, who had a much easier 7-6, 6-1 victory over Slovakia's Rebeka Sramkova. Italian fourth seed Paolini crashed out, losing 6-2, 6-2 in just over an hour to Latvia's Jelena Ostapenko. And with just 1 day left for the 38th edition of National Games to conclude, the competition has been fierce. Services continue to dominate the medal tally with 65 gold, 24 silver and 25 bronze medals, taking their total to 114. Maharashtra is in second place with 50 gold, 62 silver and 63 bronze medals, making a total of 175. Haryana follows with 39 gold, 45 silver and 56 bronze, bringing their tally to 140. Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh and Tamil Nadu have also delivered strong performances. A major highlight of the Games has been Uttarakhand's record-breaking run. The state has achieved its best ever performance, securing 22 gold, 33 silver and 42 bronze with a total of 97 medals. This remarkable success showcases the growing sporting culture in the state. Well, Paris Olympics boxing gold medalist Iman Khelif has accused the International Boxing Association of making false and offensive accusations after it launched the legal action against the IOC for allowing her to compete in Olympics amid a gender eligibility row. The IBA filed a complaint with Swiss Attorney General Stephen Blatter, specifically mentioning Algeria's Khelif and Taiwan's Lin Yoting. The IBA said in its statement that the IOC's decision to permit both boxers to participate in the Olympic qualifiers and win gold in Paris has denied opportunities to deserving female athletes. And Arsenal's bid to win the Premier League suffered a major setback as Kai Havertz has been ruled out for the remainder of the season. In fact, the German forward sustained an injury during the club's warm weather training camp in Dubai and was due to face further tests. The club revealed on Wednesday that the 25-year-old Havertz had suffered a torn hamstring and would now miss the rest of the campaign. Arsenal are currently second in the Premier League, 6 points behind leaders Liverpool. And a new museum of laughter in Croatian capital Zagreb is offering to put people through the spinner to wash away the negativity of modern life. The founder, Andrea Golubic, has introduced the place with the objective to heal people with laughter. Take a look. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. Well, we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Kurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.